Ethan had mastered the art of waiting. Waiting for replies. Waiting for opportunities. Waiting for life to finally start. Every morning, he sat by the small window of his rented room, watching the city rush past him. People walked with purpose, their strides confident, their destinations clear. They knew exactly where they were going. Ethan didn't. He was 27, stuck in a job he hated, living a life that felt like it was permanently on pause. He used to tell himself, one day, things will change. But the days bled into months, and the months stretched into years, and nothing ever changed. It wasn't that Ethan was lazy. He wasn't. He worked hard. He showed up on time. He tried to do the right thing. But somewhere along the way, a quiet, insidious belief had taken root in his mind. That big dreams were reserved for other people, people with more confidence, more money, more connections. Not for someone like him. Every rejection email he received felt like another nail in the coffin of his ambitions, a confirmation of his inadequacy. Every failure, no matter how small, felt final, like a verdict on his worth. At night, he'd lie awake, staring at the shadows on his ceiling, his mind replaying the same tired question over and over. What am I doing wrong? The silence of his room offered no answers, only the echo of his own frustration. One rainy Tuesday evening, after another soul-crushing day at the office, Ethan sought refuge from the downpour in a small kid café. Never noticed before, the place was nearly empty, a cozy haven from the storm outside. In a corner, an old man sat with a notebook, his pen gliding across the page, seemingly undisturbed by the rain tapping a gentle rhythm against the window pane. Ethan ordered a black coffee and found a seat nearby. He pulled out his phone and started the familiar, numbing ritual of scrolling, passively observing the curated highlight reels of everyone else's seemingly perfect lives. It was a habit that always left him feeling emptier than before. After a few minutes, the old man looked up from his writing, his eyes kin a gentle smile playing on his lips. "Long day?" he asked, his voice soft but clear. Ethan managed a small, weary nod. "Long life," he replied, the words slipping out before he could stop them. The old man chuckled, a warm, soft sound that filled the quiet space. "That bad?" "Huh?" Ethan hesitated. It was strange to open up to a complete stranger, but there was something about the man's presence that felt disarming. He let out a long sigh he didn't realize he'd been holding. "I just feel like I'm constantly waiting for something, but I don't even know what it is anymore." The old man closed his notebook, giving Ethan his full attention. "Can I tell you something strange?" Ethan shrugged, intrigued. "Sure. I spent most of my life waiting to..." The man confessed. "I was waiting to feel ready. Waiting to be confident enough. Waiting for someone to give me permission to start." "And?" Ethan asked, leaning forward slightly. A shadow of regret flickered in the man's eyes. "And I lost years. Years I can never get back." Ethan felt a pang of recognition. He was living that reality right now. "So what changed? What did you do?" The old man tapped a finger on his worn notebook. "The change came the day I finally realized that no one was coming to save me." The words hung in the air between them, simple yet profound. A heavy silence settled over their table, broken only by the sound of the rain. "You see," the old man continued, his gaze steady, "we tell ourselves that life will begin once we're ready. But readiness is a comforting lie. It's a myth we create to keep ourselves safely within our comfort zones, to avoid the risk of failure." As Ethan listened, he felt something fundamental shift inside him, like a key turning in a lock he never knew was there. The old man's words weren't just a story. They were a mirror reflecting Ethan's own life back at him. The man stood up, placing a few bills on the table for his coffee. As he prepared to leave, he turned back to Ethan one last time. "Stop waiting," he said, his voice firm but kind. "Start becoming." And then he was gone, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts and those two powerful sentences echoing in his mind. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The old man's words replayed in his head like a mantra. Stop waiting. Start becoming. For the first time in years, the question tormenting him wasn't, "What if I fail?" or "What could go wrong?" Instead, a new, more hopeful question began to take shape. What if it works? The next morning, the world hadn't magically transformed. The sun rose, just as it always did. The city hummed with the same familiar sounds of traffic and life. His fears and doubts hadn't vanished. They were still there, whispering their usual discouraging narratives. But Ethan did something different. He took one small, defiant step. Before heading to the job he disliked, he sat down and worked on his long-neglected dream project for just 30 minutes. No excuses, no procrastination, just action. The next day, he did it again. And the day after that, and the day after that. It wasn't easy. Some days were terrible. His inner critic was louder than ever, telling him he was wasting his time. Some days, he was consumed by doubt, staring at a blank page, feeling like a fraud. On a few occasions, the urge to quit was almost overwhelming. But he didn't stop. He remembered the old man's words and chose to keep moving, even if it was just a crawl months passed. The progress was slow, almost imperceptible at first, but it was real, tangible. Ethan wasn't suddenly a massive success. He wasn't famous. He hadn't become rich overnight, but he was no longer standing still. It was moving, and that movement changed everything. With each small action, his confidence grew, not with a loud bang, but with a quiet, steady hum. His skills sharpened with practice. His fear, once a paralyzing monster, slowly began to lose its power. It was still there, but it was no longer in the driver's seat. One evening, about a year later, Ethan found himself walking past that same little cafe. He paused, his heart skipping a beat. He peered through the window, half expecting to see the old man in the corner, writing in his notebook. He wasn't there. But this time, standing on that familiar pavement, Ethan didn't feel lost. He didn't feel like he was waiting anymore. A genuine smile spread across his face, and he whispered to himself, so quietly that only he could hear, "I stopped waiting." And in that moment, he knew that was the day his life had truly begun. The lesson here is simple. Life doesn't change when you finally feel ready. It changes the moment you decide to move scared, uncertain, and imperfect, but committed to taking that first step. So, stop waiting. Start becoming. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.